joining us today for this edition of Author Talk. Again, my name is Aaron, and today I'm going to talk to Nick Tuminillo. So Nick has been making a name for himself in the fitness industry for about 25 years now, training everyone from general populations all the way to NFL athletes. He has been a consultant for companies like Sorinex, Dynamax, Reebok, and Power Systems, and has authored many outstanding best-selling books, including Strength Zone Training, Building Muscle for Performance, Your Workout Perfected, and his latest right here that we're going to talk a lot about today, Strength Training for Fat Loss, and this is actually the second edition here. So he is a Personal Training Hall of Famer and was actually the 2016 NSCA Personal Trainer of the Year. So again, Nick, thank you so much for joining us today and for spending part of your day here. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man. It's an honor to work with Human Kinetics, and anybody who's ever thinking about writing their own book, HK is by far the best publisher out there. So, the best credit I can give to you also.
We definitely appreciate that. So I gave a quick rundown to some of your accomplishments and some of the books that you've already authored. But if you could give listeners a little bit more insight on kind of your journey and how you ended up where you are today.
I'll try to be very short about this because I know people want to get information in regards to how they can better train versus learning about who I am. And I would tell people Google knows me, so you can always Google it.
Right.
But I'll give you the very brief one. My mom was a bodybuilder in the 80s, so training is very close to my heart. And I would say even further now. I recently lost my mom, so I sort of try to follow in her footsteps. So she says that she raised me on the smell of iron and sweat. That is 100% true. I literally grew up in a dirty, swelly, stinky bodybuilder, 80s bodybuilder basement style gym where all the original WWE wrestlers and Washington Redskins, Commanders now, trained in. So, this is really part of my fitness, is part of my DNA. But bodybuilding is something that I personally got into. I was more into mixed martial arts, combat sports, general fitness, those sorts of things. Started personal training at 18, co-opened my own gym at 20 years old, and was training everybody from professional athletes like Baltimore Ravens players and MMA fighters. All this you can easily see this online if you search my name. With NFL or Baltimore Ravens, different things. But the majority of my clients were everyday Joes and Janes of all ages, but we also had some of the hard cases in post-rehabilitation as well. So started writing articles in 2007 for websites like bodybuilding.com and Testosterone Nation. And then my first book, which has now become, the second edition, Strength Training for Fat Loss. And that brings us to today. I still love writing. I still love training. I still train everyday clients 5 days a week. I'd never want to be the trainer who only teaches trainers but doesn't actually train anyone anymore. Because I love this stuff.
And I think the title of this book, is probably, it sounds like something that you deal with every day. You said you've trained high level athletes, but at the same time you train everyday people. So, and a lot of those people are probably pretty interested in training for fat loss. That seems to be a large population of people and why we end up training. So I love that title for one specific reason, and I'm sure you've encountered this too, where there has been a misconception, and I think it's getting better, where people think that you have to do straight cardio for fat loss. But I love that the idea is catching on, that you can utilize strength training and you should utilize strength training for fat loss. So I guess first though, I want to talk about, kind of the importance of fat loss. And I know you mentioned this in the book, why it's so important. So if you could kind of get into that a little bit and some of the specific reasons that someone should be encouraged and motivated for fat loss.
Well, I think people are, in general, understand that it really comes down to looks, right? We can talk about the health benefits, and you might run faster and jump higher because if you're carrying around an extra 15 pounds and you care about, doesn't mean you're a pro athlete. You could be a recreational basketball player, or you like to box a couple times a week, and you still have a little bit of competitiveness where you want to feel a little bit that you're getting a little bit better. And losing a little bit of that fat may help you move a little bit faster, because having a 15 pounds of extra body weight is basically like wearing a backpack of 15 pounds of rocks and then try to move around. That's basically that's the best analogy I can give you. But what I want to do is I want to sort of take a right on this one a little bit. And I know most people, they have their reasons why they want to lose fat, whether it be for looks, performance, a little bit of both. And I would say I want to address right up front the biggest concern I get when people hear the title of the book or strength training for fat loss. It comes down to you can't out-train a bad diet. It really comes down to what you put in your mouth. Therefore, there is no such thing as a fat loss workout. There are fat loss diets. That's the biggest thing I hear all the time. It's mainly from trainers or people in fitness. The everyday population doesn't really get into this stuff. So that's wrong, and it's correct. So I want to detail that. It's correct in the fact that you're not, if no amount of exercise, unless you're training like an Olympic athlete, is going to offset if you're eating way too many calories. You're eating like a lazy teenager, essentially, right? And by the way, calories in, calories out, it also has to do with the quality of food. So when I talk about calories, I'm not discounting the quality of foods. They work together. Okay. So that being said, what if you already are paying attention to what goes in your mouth, right? I'm not saying you're eating like a figure competitor or bodybuilder, but what if you already are trying to pay a little bit of attention to, you're a little calorie conscious, you're already trying to eat nutrient dense foods, more fruits, vegetables, lean meats, or protein substitutes for vegans and vegetarians. The question becomes, is there a more optimal way to train to complement your goal of losing fat that you're already doing with what you're doing from the nutrition standpoint? And that is what this book is about. And that answer is yes. Now, let me explain that. It's very simple. If you're training to power lift, you want to combine exercises, use sets and reps and rest periods that maximize strength gains, because you're trying to maximize the 3 big lifts. That would include longer rest periods, focusing on those lifts, and going heavy weights. So there's a specific way to train for that goal. If your goal is to maximize hypertrophy, that's get as much size. You want to train a little bit more like a bodybuilder. You want to have higher volume. All right. If you want specifics, about 10 to 20 sets per week per muscle is about what the research says to get there. And again, you want a little longer rest breaks between sets, because that has been shown to maximize hypertrophy or muscle size as well. So it's more about volume, getting as much bicep work, glute work, pec work, all those areas you're trying to focus on. So that is a different goal than training for powerlifting. Right. The same can be said for fat loss. For fat loss, you're not trying to maximize maximal strength gains. You're not trying to maximize hypertrophy. You're trying to maximize the metabolic demand of the workout to help you maximize the calories you burn, not just in the workout, but throughout the day, throughout the week. Is it going to be impressive numbers? No numbers are impressive when you work out. Ask someone who's exercised for years how long it takes them to put 5 pounds on their bench press without drugs or anything else. It may take years or months to add. The better you get, the closer you get to your fitness level, or your fitness optimal, the harder it is to make smaller gains. So now that brings us to strength training for fat loss. What we're doing is saying cardio burns calories, but it doesn't necessarily do much for the muscle. So what if we can use strength training to maximize the metabolic effect, to still get some strength gains and some muscle gains, not necessarily maximize them, but it's an added bonus. But definitely not lose any muscle, which is important, from a metabolic standpoint. The more muscle you have on the body, the bigger the engine you have, the more fuel you need. All right. So in that case, what we want to do, if you're trying to maximize fat loss, I like to talk in practical terms, and we have some research on this, is you want to do exercises like mini circuits, 3-4 exercises at a time. You want to work the entire body. It's important to have some rest, but in actually having a little less rest. I'm not saying just rush between sets, but a little less rest than powerlifting, or actually less rest than powerlifting. And that also increases the metabolic demand. So again, the strength training for fat loss is really a programming book for people that want to build a little bit of muscle and have some strength, but maximize the caloric expenditure of their workouts, which also as a benefit maximizes your conditioning, your general fitness, which is your work capacity. How much work can you do in a given amount of time, or how much can you do before you start to fatigue and fade out? And also, how quickly do you recover? All of those are actually really big markers of fitness. So I wanted to clarify that and to redirect your question there, because most people are more concerned with how do I work out to lose fat versus like what are the benefits. They have their own reasons why, so that's what I really wanted to cover.
Okay. No problem at all. And I know, I guess going along with that, you mentioned specifically the 3 C's of strength training for fat loss. So I guess we could go more directly into those. I know you talked about, well, I can let you talk about them. Kind of explain what those 3 C's are and kind of how they work, a little more how they work as far as training for fat loss.
Sure. So 3 C's of metabolic strength training. Metabolic strength training is basically the term I use for strength training that's geared towards maximizing metabolic demand versus powerlifting or bodybuilding. So those 3 C's are complexes, combinations, and circuits. Everybody knows circuits. It's bringing together multiple different exercises at one time. A complex is basically a circuit done with the same piece of equipment. So instead of going from the squat rack to the lat pull down to push-ups, you might grab a set of dumbbells. Let's say they're 20 pounds, for example. And then you do shoulder presses, and then you do some Romanian deadlifts, and then you do some bent over rows, and then you bring them here, and then you do some squats, we're holding the dumbbells like that. So it's basically a circuit that's done with one piece of equipment. Now there's trade-offs to both. That's actually more metabolically demanding when you do a complex. It's also better in a big box gym when equipment real estate is at a premium, right? If you're doing the squat rack combined with the lat pull down, as soon as you leave the lat pull down, someone else more than likely jumps on it. So circuits tend to not work very well in busier gyms, which a lot of people are exercising in. So a complex is much better to do there. However, the trade-off is that my legs are always stronger than my upper body. And my pulling muscles or my pulling movement is always stronger than my pushing movement, such as overhead press. So the weight that I would hold for a complex, such as the one I gave you an example of, I have to use a weight that's limited to the weakest exercise in the complex. So in that case, if I'm combining shoulder presses with bent over rows, with Romanian deadlifts, or could be single leg Romanian deadlifts, whatever, with, let's say, front squat or, squats holding the dumbbells here, or reverse lunges, I have to now consider that as I do the complex. My solution there is that you don't have to do the same amount of reps for every exercise in a given complex. One of the problems I have with some of the big, the group fitness classes and things that we have out there. They're very metabolic, they're enjoyable, they're fun, but they often have very random numbers that they put exercises together at. So in this case, I might recommend doing 10 reps of the weaker exercise, but 15 or 20 reps of the stronger exercises, such as the reverse lunges or deadlifts, within a given complex. Right? So that way it makes more sense based on challenges per stronger and weaker movements. So now a combination, probably the most obvious example for a combination is something like an Olympic lift, right? And I'm not saying that's the only combination, but an Olympic lift, basically like, you pick it up from the ground and then it comes up to here and then it goes here. That's 3 different movements. That's a deadlift to a clean to a push press or a push jerk, whatever the technique involves there. So that is doing one single rep of each exercise and then repeating the sequence. Versus a complex is doing like 10 reps of one move and then 15 reps of another move. So it's doing all the reps of each move before you go on to the next exercise. So a complex or a combination, might be something like, let's say I take one dumbbell and I do a squat, then I do a clean, then I do a push press with the single dumbbell. That's something someone who doesn't have Olympic lifting experience could do. And then I bring it back down, and that's 1 rep, and then I repeat. So they all have their benefits and limitations. And the book, Strength Training for Fat Loss, shows you how to use each of those forms of metabolic training because they all have the same factors involved. Their total body, they demand a repetitive effort. So total body, more muscles work, more energy is expended, more calories burned. Because you're using more of the body, it has a higher metabolic demand. They make you work for a longer period of time. So instead of just doing a quick set and then sitting there looking at your phone for 3 minutes, you may be working for a little longer period of time as you train. That's going to increase the metabolic demand as well. And because they're strength training, not steady state cardio, they demand a higher effort. So all three of those things are evidence-based ways to maximize the metabolic demand of a workout. So the 3 C's are just different methods to express the same principles of maximizing the metabolic demand of the workout.
Okay, I think that's all great information, and I think one of the takeaways that pretty much I'll say a lot of people can learn from is the idea that I think sometimes people might overcomplicate their workout. Whereas some of the examples that you just gave right there, I mean, you can use a single piece of equipment, you can combine movements there and really kind of simplify the workouts for people and give them maybe a better workout than what they would have otherwise. Is that something that you found maybe in your practice where people try to overcomplicate things? Because it sounds like you do a great job of kind of simplifying that for them.
Sure. Well, I would say people who read a lot of training, whether they be a fitness professional or just someone who's just really likes to be educated on the matter, they could probably do that because we're in the information age, and I think that's good. Having more information accessible to you is better than having less. But sometimes we can get it caught into that. Nobody's ever going to agree on anything. There's lots of opinions, and by the way, variety is great. So there's no one right answer. There's lots of good ways to do it, which is why there's lots of great coaches who have different approaches. If you're an American football fan, find the top 5 teams right now who are the playoff contenders, and you might find 5 different offensive approaches and 5 different defensive approaches, and guess what? All of them work. So, so that's why we may get caught up in the complication. When I think better, especially for the general consumer who basically says, hey, Nick, you're the expert. I'm trusting you. You did the thinking for me. I'm a doctor, lawyer, mom, dad, accountant, whatever. I don't want to have to think. You just tell me what to do and I'm going to do it. What I find it probably needs the most improvement or in regards to better is making the workout more intelligent from a safety and effectiveness standpoint. For example, we have a lot of group exercise classes out there, right? And they're great. They create a fun environment. I'm not here to say anything negative about something, but I can provide a concern. And this is what I try to address with Strength Training for Fat Loss. They are very metabolically demanding workouts. There's a fun environment. The loud music's going. The instructors have great energy. Awesome stuff. The issue is they tend to have a lot of random style training approaches, right? Because variety is the order of the day, because variety is enjoyable. The problem is a lot of times is they have a lot of gaps in their workout and they have a lot of redundancy. So you might do something like some squats, some burpees, and then run around the building. Well, that's blasting your legs and the upper body's hardly getting hit at all. A lot of these exercise classes don't involve rotation. So, or they'll tend to put like 3 exercises together that all blast the shoulders, right? You get your shoulders tired and make you do a push press. It's like that's not a very smart way to go about training for the general population, right? There's always a reason a bodybuilder may do that or something, but they're not in those classes. So what I do in the book is break down a smarter, more intelligent way to do circuits, do combinations, do complexes. Let me give you an example. Again, I like to speak in practical terms, not just in broad terms. So if I'm going to do a 4 exercise circuit, a really intelligent way to do it, and this is not that complex, by the way, is go upper body, then lower body, and then I can break that down into 4 different movements. I have a pushing, pulling movement, and I can do a hip dominant movement or a hip oriented movement and a knee oriented movement. So a knee oriented movement may be reverse lunges. A hip movement may be a Romanian deadlift. A pushing movement may be a push-up or a shoulder press. Pulling might be a lat pull down, chin up, or bent over row. So a really nice way to do that is I can base the body off of like an X. So I can do an upper body pushing and then follow that with a lower body hip hinge movement, because the hip hinge really works the back of the lower body versus the pushing is upper body front. And then I can swap that over. Then I can do a pulling movement and then do a knee bending type movement.
Okay.
So while I do that, see, there's no redundancy there.
Yeah.
Each exercise fills a gap that the other ones miss. And by going up and down, not only am I creating a little bit more of a cardiovascular blood flow demand, because your body needs to put more blood flow to each muscle,
Right.
but I'm also allowing the muscle that I previously worked to rest the entire time it takes to do the other 3 exercises before I get back to it. So even though I'm creating an overall demand of work on my body, I'm still letting some recovery happen. It's called local muscle fatigue. Local muscle fatigue is how fast does an individual muscle fatigue. Central fatigue is heart and lung fatigue. So I'm maximizing local muscle recovery while still keeping busy. So that way it allows me to maximize the quality of my reps from set to set, or from rep to rep and from set to set, which allows me to boost the intensity up. Whereas if I just said, well, I just got on Instagram and I found my 3 favorite leg exercises for that day, and we haven't done this one in a while, and I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
And we do the, the squat jump to run around the building, man, your legs are already gassed from the first one. So the quality of the second one is going to be terrible.
Right.
And if the quality is terrible, your legs are already gassed. Therefore, you have less chance of stabilizing your knees, more chance of injury. Then you go run around the building. No wonder people are straining hamstrings and getting tight calves, right? So more intelligent programming gives you a better workout and lets you do it for longer. So that is really what I would say, what I'm looking at when I say better.
Okay. All right. And one thing that you hit on there is that maybe some people struggle with is the intensity and trying to keep up that intensity over time. So I guess just how important is that overall for people to kind of understand, is like keeping up that intensity? I know, like you said in that example you just gave, kind of letting one body part rest while you're working the other, so you're not getting, fatigued too quickly. But just how really important is that intensity to keep up?
Well, of course, intensity is to keep up, but I don't want people to think that means you feel like you're crawling out of the gym or on the verge of throwing up. It just means that you're not just dogging it. It means that you're, you're not just doing here's a simple example.
Yep.
People ask me this all the time as a trainer. How many reps should I do? And what I tell them is, well, the weight is determined by the reps. So if I say 10 reps, it means by the end of 10 reps, you can't do anymore, or you're pretty close. It doesn't mean grab 20-pound dumbbells if you can do 40 and then say, I did 10. At the end of the set, if you go 9, 10, and you look like I look right now, that's not intensity, right?
Right.
So it really is just a relative effort to your strength. So, but quality still trumps quantity.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I always tell people, I say, judge your workouts by the results they create, not by the fatigue they create. And use soreness as a gauge, not a goal. Meaning if you're really sore, you probably went too hard. Soreness is not indicative of a great workout. It's indicative that your body's probably not used to whatever it is you did, or that you went too hard. A little soreness is okay, especially if it's new. So we talk about these things in the book as well. Again, it's more about being able to keep up an intensity relative to you while still not risking that increased risk of injury, and also putting exercises together in a way that it's more conducive to you keeping the intensity up. I'm a pretty fit guy. I've been lifting for a long time. If you gave me the workout that I told you, where I said you made me do a bunch of squats and then burpees and then run around the building, my intensity is going to be terrible too, because my legs are already shot. I can't, it's hard, it's challenging, but that's not a good workout. That's just getting you tired.
Right. No, I think that's a great point. In other words, be smart about your workouts. Make sure that you split them up, and you're just smart about the programming. And I think obviously you do a great job in the book here. Now I know you like to definitely talk in simple terms that everyone can understand. But I want to see if you can touch on the fact that you can, trying to think of how to explain this in simple way, how you can continue to burn calories throughout the day, even after your workout. Now I know, like as professionals, I mean, we can call this post-exercise oxygen consumption, but I guess how can you explain that to someone in simple terms that they're still going to get a benefit long after their workout is over?
Well, pretty much is it. They call it, the old school term was the afterburn. I think people feel it. I mean, if you've ever done a pretty good workout and you go home and you shower, you get out of the shower, you're still sweating.
Yep.
Right. So I mean, we've all felt that before. So I don't know if people really need to be convinced of that.
Okay.
And I would say still that the numbers, like, for example, if you put on like 1 pound of muscle, it helps you burn like 6 to 10 calories extra per day.
Right.
Those are not impressive numbers at all, but it's still better than nothing. And
right.
and still you're also you're also looking better. Muscle is the shape of your body. You don't necessarily get that from cardio, right? You'll burn calories from cardio. In fact, within 30 minutes of strength training compared to cardio, you'll probably burn a few more calories doing cardio.
Yeah.
But what you don't get is as much of that afterburn effect, and you don't improve the shape of your body, right? And you know, we've all heard, you know, we've all seen people who look cardiovascularly fit, like the endurance athlete body, right? Now, some endurance athletes, you know, look amazing, but other ones, they don't look like they have much muscle behind them. So most people aren't going for that physique. So that's the importance of doing strength training. Okay.
And I think what you just mentioned, kind of the difference between maybe an endurance runner compared to a sprinter, kind of that body type is what you're talking about there.
Sure, and obviously genetics play a role, of course, right? Some people don't exercise and they look like they go to the gym. Other people, you know. So, we're speaking in general terms here. So that's the benefit of it. And also keep in mind, this is very general now, but you know, we've all heard the term aerobic and anaerobic. Well, look at that as a ladder, right? So this is the bottom rungs and this is the top rung. You have to go through aerobic to get to anaerobic.
Okay.
Training is anaerobic. So if you're always going up into anaerobic, every time you recover, you're going through aerobic, which is why you can increase your aerobic capacity without necessarily going out and doing road work. I am not, this is another thing I have to say I've heard concerns with. People go, well, what if I like to run? Are you saying running is bad? Go run. If you like running, go run. It is one of the most accessible things to do. You know, all you got to do is throw your shoes on and go, right? And it's great to get outside. It's great for your mental health if you enjoy it. So I'm not saying stop everything that you like to do, but most people who do enjoy running, whether it be a few times a week or 5 times a week, usually they understand that strength training provides some complementary benefits or additional health benefits that cardiovascular doesn't. So I want to make sure that that's clear as well. I am not into the dogma camp of cardio is a waste of time or running is bad for you. Everything's bad for you if you do it too much or you're hurting while you do it. So I'm just trying to provide a general approach for people who are saying, tell me what to do. I hear mixed things. I don't really like going out and doing road work, but I hear that's the magic sauce for fat loss. I'm here to say, no, there's no magic there. It really has to do with how many calories you burn. And as long as you're paying a little bit of attention to what goes in your mouth, you can use strength training to, you know, look a little bit more rocked up, get that physique that athletic looking body that you want, and still improve your cardiovascular health.
Definitely. Something that made me think of something that I want to make sure that we touch on before we wrap it up here is you described, I guess, a secret maybe to fat loss in the book, and you described it in an acronym, the acronym NEAT. And just kind of reading through that, I thought that was interesting, and I'll let you explain that. But just kind of, I guess, the idea that you can continue to burn calories just while you're not even thinking about it, while maybe you're fidgeting or different things like that. So I guess could you kind of explain that acronym? Because I thought that was an interesting part of the book too.
Sure. Well, this is certainly not a new concept.
Yeah.
I try to simplify it in a more down-to-earth way.
Mm-hmm.
But NEAT is an acronym. It means non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Okay, in non-nerd science terms, what that means is that the calories you burn while living your daily life, right? Walking your dog, washing your car, doing your laundry, doing housework, you get the idea. Gardening, whatever it is. Now, we have a lot of research on this. It's not a new concept, that the most active cultures, people who tend to, walk more to place A and B, they wash their car instead of sitting in the car wash and driving through the car wash. They walk their, all these things, whatever it is, do more housework, chores. They tend to have longer, healthier lives and tend to be leaner.
Okay.
Right? Now, that brings me to another term. I'm gonna use an extreme term here, what I would like to call the sedentary bodybuilder or the sedentary powerlifter. Right? I know we're not talking about bodybuilders and powerlifters, but hear me out. We all have that friend who's really, we go, that's a gym rat, right? But outside of that 60 to 90 minutes per day that they train, they're on their ass. They're behind a desk or they're on their couch. They are sedentary, right? Now, good for them. I'd rather them exercise and find something they enjoy than not. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they're healthy, right? And sometimes they have a hard time burning fat because of that, right? Or losing fat, I should say. So it's a secret. It's not a secret, but it's a secret that nobody ever talks about that. We always think about what I'm doing at the gym, right? And we do things like, drive around the parking lot to find the closest spot to walk in the gym and get on the treadmill, right? That kind of stuff. Right? So we don't do a lot of things that elevate our NEAT. So if fat loss is your goal, absolutely get to the gym, work out in your garage, do the workouts we talk about in the book. But you'll make much better gains if you do two things. Easier said than done, I get it. Try to get at least 8 hours sleep. Many people are laughing right now, especially if you have kids or whatnot. Easier said than done, but getting less sleep has been known to hinder your fat loss from a hormonal perspective. So maybe take a little nap if you can. I go easier said than done. And two, more easily manageable than changing your sleep is try to improve your NEAT. Like I said, take a little walk instead of watching a favorite TV show, or listen to the podcast and take a walk. Wash your car instead of driving through the car wash. Again, I understand all this stuff takes time, but everything takes time. So a lot of it has to do with just finding the times that you would be Netflixing it up and sitting on your phone. Then try to do something active while you do that, but not necessarily exercise, not going for a jog, just leisure type activities, right? Walk to the grocery store, park a little further away, take the stairs, all that kind of stuff. Do that house project that you've been neglecting.
Right. Which I'm sure a lot of people have. No, that was I think that's an outstanding point to make. And I guess a different way that people can think about, how they can stay active, even when they're not in the gym or not getting in their regular workout. So, like I said, I do want to be respectful of your time, but this has been an excellent conversation. I know that a lot of people learned a lot from what you talked about today. If you haven't got your copy yet, go ahead and grab your copy. It's on our website, us.humankinetics.com. I know you can find it a number of other places. I think it's still on Amazon. So definitely pick up your copy. This book includes everything that we talked about today, even more. There are, workout plans, workout programs, full color pictures of exercises that you can do with demonstrations. You're going to learn how to do those exercises. Definitely get your copy. You will not regret it. So, Nick,
if I just add, importantly, we have a whole chapter on at-home workouts. So, and minimal equipment, for whether you have a garage gym or just bands and body weight. I know that's something that's very important for a lot of people. So I made a point to include a full chapter and full workout plans if you're exercising with minimal equipment as well. And that's I would say one of the coolest parts of the book. It's not just designed for people who are going to the gym.
Yep. And I think that's important for people like you just mentioned that have a busy life. I mean, everyone says that they're busy, but like if you are busy and think that you can't make it to the gym, there are specific examples, like Nick just said, in the book on how you can still get in a good workout, like you said, with minimal equipment or just doing things from your home, from your living room, wherever. So,
and also beginners. We have a whole chapter dedicated
yep.
to beginners, because the rest of the chapter is a little more advanced. We show you where to start from day one. If you're just off the couch, you're coming off of an injury and you haven't exercised in a while. Those were the two biggest requests I had from the first edition of the book. Okay. So those were the two main focuses I had on this new updated second edition.
Which I think is a great point, because I think it's speaking to a little bit of what we talked about earlier. Maybe people are a little fearful or hesitant of, starting to exercise, or maybe getting back into exercise after a layoff for whatever reason. So, and again, you do a great job of presenting all that in the book to encourage people to get back into that. So if you have anything else, I will let you have the last word here, and kind of let everyone know if they're not following you already, where they can follow you and keep up with all the great things that you're doing.
Well, I appreciate it, man. I would just say one thing is, from a diet perspective, I'm not a dietitian, but I would just say this is that whether you're a trainer trying to help clients or yourself, just try to change one habit at a time. Don't try to do what you think you should do. The best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. So if you've only gone to the gym, once a week for the last 3 months, then just say, I'm going to go to the gym twice a week. And then once you do, don't say I'm going to start going 4 times a week. You're going to do that for a week or 10 days, and you're going to go right back to your behavior. So that's nutritionally. If, you tend to like your soda or whatnot, try to substitute with water or something else one time. It doesn't mean cut out everything. If you love beer, don't just say, I'm going to cut out all beer. Just try to reduce the amount of beer you have for a week. Do that for a month, and then that is now a behavior. So, Rome wasn't built in a day. All the cliche things you've heard. It takes time. Be patient. Be good to yourself. Nobody's perfect, but change one thing at a time. And then when you don't have to think about it anymore, it becomes who you are. Then change the next thing. It's a stacking process. It's not I was here, now I'm this whole different person. That rarely is sustainable long term.
All right. And again, where can everyone follow you? I mean, I know we're obviously on Instagram right now, recording this. I know you have a website too with a lot of great information.
Yeah, well, I would say YouTube. If you look under my name, Nick Tuminello, I think my YouTube name is like Trainer of Trainers or something like that. Okay. My Instagram and also Facebook. I'm very active on my Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
All right. Again, thanks so much for spending some time with us. Again, Strength Training for Fat Loss, second edition. Go ahead and grab your copy. And again, Nick, thank you so much. We will talk to you soon.